Sir, can I talk to you? Let me see your sign here. BlackRock, practice what you preach, divest now. Why? Oh, capitalism with a purpose, quoting the CEO of BlackRock. Why this morning, why now protesting BlackRock?
Well, my sign is reflecting the fact that he was preaching to the companies that are associated with him to practice capitalism with a purpose, social purpose. And that's a wonderful thought, and I agree with him. But he is his company is facilitating indirectly climate change, deforestation of the Amazon through the, investing in companies that profit from that, and he should stop.
Larry Fink's your son?
Sorry?
Larry Fink's your son?
No.
Oh, I thought you said your son. So what's interesting about this is the UN, they said 12 years for irreparable damage, and that was before the Amazon fires started. So now things are precipitated, and we know BlackRock has financial ties to that, as well as other deforestation. But you don't hear much about BlackRock in most media.
You're right about the timeline. I just saw a lady with a shirt that's already outdated with the 12 years. But in addition, the country is not moving in the right direction because of the administration chiefly. And the 12 years was based on the premise that people would be trying. Who's trying? I mean, I'm trying, and a handful of other people are trying, but it's not our official policy. We backed out of the climate accord. It's much worse than that. And anyway, I'm not an expert. You sound like more of an expert than I am on the details of BlackRock, but they definitely are a major player here. And the point of being here, in particular, is that political action is slow. Financial action can be very quick. If they could be convinced, they would have an immediate impact, and fossil fuel companies would start winding down instead of continuing to try to expand. It's that simple.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's take a look what's going on here.
No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the BlackRock. Gotta stop. 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 BlackRock. BlackRock. Gotta stop. 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 No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. Gotta stop. BlackRock. Leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No blood for oil, leave the profits in the soil. No
You got some padding there, right?
profits in the soil. Leave the profits.
It feels good. I think one reason it feels good to get up at 6:30 in the morning and find your way to the subway. Because we are the earth.
Yes.
We are the fire and the flood.
Yes.
We're not operating in a vacuum. We're not trying to be centrists anymore. The children, the 14-year-olds who are finding their love of the earth, they're not claiming to be centrists. They're not moderates. We must be as radical as Mother Earth is right now. Amen. The spies who are recording us, the executives up on the top floor, we will love them until they cannot hate us. And when I say us, I mean the earth.
Yes.
Right. We are the earth. We are the animals going extinct. We are the plants. We are the amphibians. We are the bacteria. We are agents, radical agents from the earth. And we are here. We hope the EPA turns around. We want the Sierra Club to win its lawsuits. Yes. But I can tell you that there's only one government that can stand up to this extra legal $7 trillion crime spree we're facing.
What's that?
And that is the earth herself. Yes. She is teaching us with her superstorms. She's giving us a message. We can't just say, oh, that's menacing. Oh, that's a kind of terrorism. Oh, that's God's major force. None of that works. She is us. We are her. We are the flood. We are the fire. If we're not called trespassers, if we're not called terrorists by the people who run the press up there, then we're doing something wrong. Every social movement that ever changed people in the United States took that risk. They were called those names, and they all had a faith. They were all risking their life and limb because they believed in something more than themselves, something deep in themselves. And we love the earth. She is our superior being. She is in us, and it will make it possible for us to do things we cannot imagine. We will penetrate the armor of this building. We will pass through its steel. The Trumpian walls keeping us out will fail. We will be the resurrecting estuary, the mountain, the alpine glaciers coming back to life. We will not be the silent spring. We will be the shouting spring. Amen. Amen. Earth-alleluia. 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 Earth-alleluia.
We are the river. We are the sea. We won't stop rising till we are free. We are the river. We are the sea. We won't stop rising till we are free. We are the river. We are the sea. We won't stop rising till we are free. We are the river. We are the sea. We won't stop rising till we are free. We are the river. We are the sea. We won't stop rising till we are free. The earth is on fire. All the land is burning. Everything is on fire. The earth
over as the masters of the mistresses of ceremony.
Yes.
Let's give them a big hallelujah here. I want to thank the Stop Shopping Choir for their singing today. Amen.
Let's give it up again for Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir. Way to sing us in. So, as Reverend Billy said, I'm Shay. I'm the New York City organizer for the Sierra Club. We're part of a coalition called BlackRock's Big Problem. And along with all of our friends, who we'll introduce in a second here, we're here because BlackRock is the largest investor in climate destruction in the world. Not only are they funding fossil fuels, they're also funding the destruction of the Amazon. Sorry, I got something in my throat. Which, as we know, is both the lungs and the heart of the planet. Could you grab some water for me? It's right there. Sorry, y'all, my throat's catching a little bit. So, I have a wonderful set of speakers for you today, but we're going to start out with some chants, so I'm going to pass it over to Norman.
All right, Norman.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
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 what do we want? When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want? And when do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
Larry Flake.
Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side.
Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry Fink, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side.
Larry Flake.
You can't hide, we can see your greedy side.
Larry Flake.
You can't hide, we can see your greedy side.
Larry Flake.
You can't hide, we can see your greedy side.
Larry Flake.
You can't hide, we can see your greedy side.
I'd like to start out by introducing Crystal from the Sunrise Movement as our first speaker.
Hello. So, as a mother, my job is to worry, but I welcome these worries because that's my job. But what I'm really concerned about is the future I brought my children into. Louder? Louder. All right, I'm going to speak louder. All right, I'm really concerned about the future I brought my children into. The things that I took for granted, like water, heat, electricity, food, political stability, I can't say that my children are going to get those things. And I know for certain that there are children in this country and countries around the world that are losing their homes and their lives to flooding, forest fires, hurricanes, mudslides. And right now, California is burning. And we can never forget all of the children who live in the sacrifice zone, where fossil fuels are extracted, transported, poisoning their water, their air, giving them lifelong health problems.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Climate justice.
And so we all know that burning fossil fuels and deforestation causes climate change, but we also know that greed causes climate change.
That's right. That's right. People, that's right.
There are people who are profiting right now off of this climate disaster. And business as usual means a 4 degrees Celsius world. A 4 degrees Celsius world is an extinction for all of life.
That ain't right.
I'm not going to let them do that to my children's future.
That's right.
We're not going to let them do that to our children's future.
Speak.
So I have a message for you.
Come on.
What do we do when our future is under attack? We're going to stand up and fight back. What do we do when our earth is under attack? What do we do when our earth
BlackRock, get off it! Put people over profit! 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 BlackRock, get off it! Put people over profit!
Our next speaker is from New York Communities for Change, which is one of the big organizers behind this event. Big shout out. All right, I'd like to introduce Miriam Hernandez from NYC.
¿Qué queremos? ¿Cuándo? ¿Qué queremos? ¿Cuándo? ¿Se puede? ¿Se puede? ¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
Buenos días a todos. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning!
Mi nombre es Miriam Hernandez. I'm from New York Communities for Change. And I have to open my Again, good morning.
Good morning!
Buenos días. Estamos aquí para dar el mensaje bien claro a la corporación BlackRock. Es una de las más grandes de Wall Street y del mundo entero. Yeah? Right. That's ugly, right? Pese a todo, ellos tienen 7 billones en acciones y bonos en Wall Street. That's right? Yeah. Do you think that's right? No, right? They have 7 million in action and bonds in Wall Street, BlackRock. That's right? No, right? Okay. So, y ellos dicen que les importa el cambio climático y el medio ambiente, pero sus acciones dicen todo lo diferente. They say they really care about the climate, but what they're doing is totally different. Yes. That's not right. Su CEO, Larry, dice que se preocupa por el planeta, pero esta compañía está financiando las corporaciones que están destruyendo el Amazonas y otras selvas tropicales. La compañía está financiando compañías como Exxon y Shell y está contaminando el ambiente. Otro de los motivos en este día es porque BlackRock invierte en prisiones privadas que encarcelan y detienen a personas. Las crisis climáticas afectan a todas las personas, pero especialmente es difícil para las personas sin dinero y de color. Hoy es el 7º aniversario del huracán Sandy, que mató a muchos neoyorquinos. El huracán mostró lo que significa la crisis climática para nosotros. Tan malo como fue, será el futuro si BlackRock y Larry continúan financiando estas compañías. Es por eso que estamos aquí, para decirle a BlackRock y Larry que dejen de destruir nuestro futuro. Gracias.
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide.
We can see your greedy side!
Our next speaker is from Riverside Church in the Beloved Earth community. I'd like to introduce Reverend Kevin Van Hook. Just speak into that, but speak real loud. Use your preacher voice.
Thank you so much. It is good to see everyone here this morning. It's great to be here. But I must admit that it's shameful that we even have to be here.
All right, Reb, speak.
It's shameful because for far too long, the earth has experienced deep and gaping wounds.
That's right.
It's shameful because for far too long, the earth has suffered because of the work of our hands.
Speak.
It's shameful.
Tell it.
Because for far too long, the earth has cried out, somebody help me.
That's right.
Somebody save me, and we have not yet done enough.
That's right.
We are here this morning because we believe that the earth is not something that we've inherited from our past,
Teach.
but rather something that we are borrowing from our future.
Tell it.
We're here this morning because we believe that our children
Come on, Rev. Come
and
on.
their children
Yeah.
and their children have a right to clean air.
Tell it. Tell it.
We're here because we believe that our children
Speak on
and
it.
their children
Yeah.
and their children have a right to clean water.
Come on.
We're here because we believe that our children, their children, and their children
Yeah.
have a right to have a safe planet to call home.
That's
We
right.
who believe in
Speak.
freedom for this planet
Come on, man.
cannot rest until it comes.
Tell it.
And so we believe that all of us have a role to play. All of us, whoever we are, wherever we are, have to do the work to help heal this planet. And BlackRock certainly has a role to play as well. So BlackRock, you can't hide.
We need to see your babies hide.
Thank you.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it, I say if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
woo! Our next speaker is going to be Greg Schweda, who's an early organizer in Extinction Rebellion.
No, I mean, without this, 7 years ago, Hurricane Sandy. 7 years ago, Hurricane Sandy, made possible by global heating, hit our city. Frontline communities literally underwater, riverside underwater, and and hundreds of New Yorkers lost their lives. And since then, hurricanes have wreaked havoc from Houston to the Bahamas to Puerto Rico. And when it's not water, it's fires. Fires are raging up the West Coast. Paradise, California burnt to the ground. And scariest of all, the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the earth, burning because of the resource extraction of modern day colonialism. And BlackRock is at the center of it all. Not only are they the largest funders of fossil fuel, they are also the largest funders of rainforest destruction, including the Amazon. Pachamama is on fire. Pachamama is on fire. Pachamama is on fire. And BlackRock is funding the corporations that are only going to succeed if we are to go extinct. BlackRock and Larry Fink, we're here not to blame and shame, not to call you out, but to call you up. To say you can be on the right side of history. Because the only thing that power respects is power. And BlackRock counts their power in trillions of dollars, but we count our power in the power of the people. And that's why we're here today. That's why you, my brothers and sisters from Sunrise, New York Communities for Change, Extinction Rebellion, and so many more are here today. And that's why at Extinction Rebellion we say this is a climate emergency. This is a rebellion. This is our time to take action. Amen. Amen. Just like we're here to help you, Larry Fink, because just like Martin Luther King was here to help LBJ pass civil rights, just like Susan B. Anthony was there to help this country give women the vote,
right.
just like Nelson Mandela was there to help South Africa end apartheid,
Right.
just like Larry Kramer was there to help the FDA release life-saving AIDS drugs. We are here today to tell you, Larry Fink, you can be on the right side of history and you can end fossil fuel investment and reinforced and destruction investment. And that's why our brothers and sisters are taking direct action.
Larry, think you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Larry, think you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. You can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side.
BlackRock, BlackRock.
You can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. What do we want? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't see what we want. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. Say what? BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. BlackRock, BlackRock, you can't hide. We can see your greedy side. We can see your greedy side. We can see your greedy side. You can't hide. We can see your greedy side. We can see your greedy side. One mic.
This is fantastic. I'm Nancy Romer. I'm one of the co-chairs of this now. Just want to thank everybody for being here, all these fantastic groups. This is what makes us powerful. It's not just the individuals. We all put our time in, but it's the groups that unite and fight together. And that's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to win.
Yes.
We want to thank all the people who are going to risk arrest and are going to be strong today, and they're going to know we've got their backs, right? Okay, we're going to have a couple more speakers, and then Reverend Billy's going to rock us again. So let's get to our next speaker, who is Basma Ai from Freedom to Thrive. Where's Basma?
It's Basma. Thank
there
you.
you go.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? My name is Basma Eid. I'm an organizer with a group called Freedom to Thrive. Freedom to Thrive believes that our safety and our communities can feel safe when our people and our planet are invested in and not destroyed. We believe that safety comes through the abolition of punishment-based systems like the criminal legal system and the immigration system that lock people up, oftentimes for profit. BlackRock is not only responsible for the destruction of our planet, but for the destruction of our communities across the world. They are a major funder in prison companies, Geo Group and CoreCivic, with millions of shares invested in these companies that make profit off of the exploitation of our people, off of the disappearance of our communities. And we're here to say that BlackRock, it's not enough for you to divest from fossil fuels, it's not enough to divest from climate destruction, but you need to divest from all of the harm that you're responsible for.
All of it! All of it!
Larry Fink is a board of trustees member of the MoMA Museum, a quote-unquote civic institution that just spent $500 trillion renovating. $500 million renovating. 500 million, whatever. I don't know what that money means because our communities never get to enjoy that. So, $500 million, which could do a lot for black and brown people in this country. So we're here to say that Larry Fink, you need to divest, you need to reinvest in our communities, you need to reparate and reinvest in the communities that have suffered from climate destruction, from mass incarceration, from detention and deportation, and from war. Don't forget that BlackRock is also a major financier of weapons manufacturers. And to be honest, I don't have trust in Larry Fink because this entire institution is created to sustain extractive capitalism. And that's not the economy that I want to live in. I want to live in a regenerative economy. And that's why this fight is a fight for just transition, a transition away from extraction and a transition into regeneration. So BlackRock, we're here and we're not going anywhere until that money comes back to the people. And the last thing I'll say before I pass it on is that divestment is one step, right? Divestment is a possible tactic that we can use, but this fight does not end with BlackRock. This fight ends when all of our people have safety and are able to live in their full dignity, not under threat of detention, of deportation, of extinction. Our power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Basma. We have two more sisters here today to talk with us and give us their ideas and make us move together forward. So our next speaker is Rose Asaf from Code Pink. Where are you, Rose? Where are you? Where are you? Is she not here? Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we're going to go on to Jenny Bach from Friends of the Earth. Great organizer, great organization. Fantastic work all over the world, and particularly in the Amazon. Here she goes.
Go, Johnny!
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. I was here flyering to talk to BlackRock people last year about their investments in climate disaster. So it's so nice to have a whole community here. Friends of the Earth US, we are here in solidarity with all of you and with all of our Friends of the Earth partners around the world who are fighting deforestation and fighting for their land rights all over the world, from Indonesia to the Amazon in Brazil, to Peru, to Liberia, to Ghana, to Uganda. We have been fighting these companies we have the money here. We've been investing our money into these companies that are destroying our forests, are destroying people's communities. Yeah, and we are asking, it's our partners have asked us here in the Global North to take our responsibility seriously of telling our companies to stop doing this destruction and assume the rightful responsibility they have with all this money. BlackRock has $6.5 trillion invested in deforestation. And they're just
we should all know that this action today is beautiful, powerful, fantastic, and there are actions just like this today in Boston and Toronto. So we're part of the global movement. Also, if you have not signed in, where is Sonia to sign us in? Hold up that sign-up sheet real. Come on forward, Sonia. Come on forward so everyone can see you. Please sign in so we can keep you posted on future events and we can beat BlackRock together. Okay, and then also, this costs money. I'm sure you're shocked to know that. All the signs, all the communications, all the ways that we hang together actually cost something. So if you can, please make a donation. And Zoe, where's Zoe? Zoe, she's the money gal, the gal with the hat. So hold up high. Okay, so please make sure that you drop something in Zoe's hat so that we can pay for this event. And now I want to call up Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir, because they are knockout. We love them. And they bring us spirit and politics.
Climate riot, here we come, here you come. Makes the love the land, love the land, power the land. Makes the law, some great man, takes the law out of the trees, and turns it to sand, turns it to sand. Makes the law burn underground, highest jet stream in the sun. Follow the young, follow the young. Yeah. This is it. Earth riot, climate riot. Hey, 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 hey. Here we come, here you come. Earth wants the young to take their stand. Take your stand, take your stand. The child is wild and mother to the man. Take your stand, take your stand. Earth wants the young to take their stand. Take your stand, take your stand, all right. The child is wild and mother to the man. Earth riot. Take your stand. Keep the child underground. Highest jet stream in the sun. Follow the young, follow the young. This is it. It's an Earth riot. Earth riot. We're rising up. It's sunrise time. It's Extinction Rebellion time. It's Sierra Club time. New York Communities for Change time. We're rising up. This is it. Earth riot, climate riot. Here you come. BlackRock, we're not leaving. We're not leaving if we walk away. We've got what happened here in us. We can return at any moment. You be careful with the people you're arresting. But you've arrested all of us. Our children are in danger, and we've got our eyes on you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. We're not leaving. We're not leaving. We've got this inside of ourselves. Amen. Earth-alleluia, somebody. Earth-alleluia. Earth-alleluia. Earth is burning. Earth is burning. Look around you. Look around you. Fire, 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 fire. And we have no water. The earth is burning. The earth is burning. Look around you. Look around.
Amen, everybody. We have these songs in us. We have the sacrifice in us. We know the crimes. We'll keep this up. We'll be inside this building soon. And we won't have a silent spring. We'll have a screaming spring. Amen.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! 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 What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! 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 What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down!
I hear that beat. Can you hear that beat?
I hear that beat.
The beat of justice.
The beat of justice.
The beat of change.
The beat of change.
Can you hear that beat?
I hear that beat.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
The beat of justice.
The beat of justice.
The beat of change.
The beat of change.
Can you hear that beat?
I hear that beat.
Can you hear that beat?
I hear that beat.
I feel that beat.
I feel that beat.
I make that beat.
I make that beat.
Do you hear that beat?
I hear that beat.
Do you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
The beat of justice.
The beat of justice. The beat of change.
The beat of justice.
The beat of change.
Do you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
Do you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
I hear that beat.
I hear that beat.
I make that beat.
I make that beat.
The beat of justice.
The beat of justice.
The beat of change.
The beat of change.
The beat of change.
I feel that beat.
I feel that beat.
I feel that beat.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
I feel that beat.
I feel that beat.
Oh, justice.
Oh, justice.
Oh, justice.
Oh, justice.
Oh, change.
Oh, change.
Oh, change.
Oh, change.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
Can you feel that beat?
I feel that beat.
Oh, justice.
Justice. Justice.
Oh, change.
Oh, change.
Oh, justice.
Oh, justice.
Oh, change.
Oh, change.
Justice.
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 Change.
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 Justice. Climate What do we want?
We want that justice.
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 What
do
we want? Climate
Justice.
Climate
Justice.
Climate
Justice.
Climate
Justice. What do we want? We want that 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 justice. What do we want? We want justice.
Climate
Justice.
Climate
Justice.
Climate
Justice.
What do we want?
We want that justice.
What do we want?
We want that justice. want that justice. What do we want? We want that justice. What do we want? We want that justice. We want that justice. What do we want? Justice. 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 We want that justice. We want that justice. We want that justice. We want that justice. What do we want? Justice. 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 We want that justice. We want that justice. We want that justice. We want that justice. Agua es vida. 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 Agua vida. Agua vida. Agua vida. Agua es vida. BlackRock es criminal. Agua es vida. BlackRock is criminal. BlackRock is criminal. BlackRock is criminal. Agua es vida. Water is life. Water is life. Forests are life. The Amazon is life.
Let's get a good photo. Let's move this way a little bit. Move this way a little bit. Our hearts are alive.
Agua es vida.
Agua es vida.
Water is life.
Water is life.
Many we calling.
We calling.
Water is life.
Water is life.
Let's pull back together for a moment. Just want to point out that we've been here for quite a while, and this seems to be
Skip, yeah. Zach, we need a photo.
Are they going to wear us out? No!
Everybody, this way, we want to take a picture.
Great organizations that have been here today. I want to thank Reverend Billy.
Shoot the group.
And Stop Shopping Choir. Were they great? Yeah! Do we love them? Did we receive their spirit? Yes! I want to thank Sunrise, New York Communities for Change, Extinction Rebellion, Action Corps, Friends of the Earth, 350, Brooklyn, New York City, People's Climate Movement. Who am I leaving out? I don't want to leave out anybody.
Squeeze together. I want to take a picture. Come off the steps. Come over here. Come in together. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. We're taking a picture.
We're going in just a moment. We're going to be thanking our heroes that are holding these camels up. Let's hold it off for a moment.
Squeeze it, squeeze it. The tighter we go together, the bigger we
Go back so we can take the picture.
It's a group shot.
Okay, sure. Folks, let's let me
Just a moment, okay? All right?
This is winding down here. They're chanting BlackRock, get off it, put people over profits. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people up here that are, looks like risking arrest, where they're not going to move away from the front of BlackRock's building. By my count, it looks like there's between 100 and 200 people here before breakfast, which is pretty good. 100 to 200 people before breakfast. They're not bad. Beautiful song, beautiful messages, and BlackRock, never mentioned in the corporate media, is the largest investor, financial investor in fossil fuel projects. Particularly, it is the largest investor in deforestation. We know what's going on in the Amazon. So I did see some comments in the live chat. What does this do? It's nice, but this doesn't do anything. I disagree, actually. Obviously, the people in that building don't give a damn about this particular protest outside. They just look at these people as riffraff, get rid of them. A few people will get arrested. But it matters because the more events like this, the more protests like this, the more awareness you raise and get more people involved. That's how change happens. You got to get more people aware and more people involved. So, very cool protest. It said on the page that I saw 80 people, but definitely between 100 and 200 showed up. This morning, you even have a young kid, looks like she's no older than 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7, that was chanting along with the adults. You had diversity of speakers, this and that, and this is New York City, so obviously you could have protests like this at any time of the day. Let's see if we could get an interview or two before we sign off. 222. Good Reverend, can I speak to you for a second?
Yes, of course.
Looks like, I feel like what we have here is a bunch of plutocrats hanging out by the pool as the house is on fire behind them. That's what's going on in the world. Could you kind of talk about what inspires you and the people out here to come out? This is not your first rodeo.
No, and it's 8 a.m., so those of us in the outer Bronx had to get up really early. I think this is about taking the defense of the earth to a more pragmatic social movement level. You always trespass. You always go into the space that is being claimed by the powerful. They call you trespassers. That always happens. You know, whether it's peace, women, labor, you know, civil rights, whatever that was. And the environmental movement has been conservative in that sense. Our process has been conservative. So I think that it's starting to dawn on us that we can shout out in the public squares until we're blue in the face. And they're up there, and they're allocating millions and millions of dollars to the destruction of life. We have to find a way to penetrate. Through the ceiling, through the roof, through the basement, through the sideways, through the Starbucks cappuccino machine, through in culture, in religion, in business, in government. We have to get to them. We have to find out how to do that. So they've had a free ride for a long time, and here we are in this Blade Runner future with just a few years to go before we can't turn around.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things, the United Nations report that said we have 12 years until irreparable damage, that report was before the Amazon was on fire.
I know.
So, you know, the timeline seems to be escalating even more and more.
It's accelerating from the beginning. It's been accelerating from the most dire predictions by the Earth scientists, because we had no way of anticipating the way that different events in the Earth would empower other events in the Earth. What do they call that? The tie-ins. What do you call that? And so that more dark water takes in more sunlight, warms it up more. Less ice makes more dark water. That whole cycle is going on everywhere. It's going on everywhere. It's all speeding up. And the last time carbon dioxide climbed at this rate, 95% of life disappeared. So at what point do we say that's an emergency? I'm in trouble. Something about the surface of the abstractions, the glass and the black metal, something about the traditions of conquest of corporations
Emergencies are now impossible by big institutions in the United States. No big institution is wired to be able to respond to a real emergency. They're slow. They've got policies, they're slow.
And you spoke about centrism's not going to get it done anymore. No. We know some of the Democratic Party's leaders talk about a middle ground. Obviously, Bernie Sanders has a $16 trillion plan. Some other candidates have less so. What's it going to take? Because obviously BlackRock's got CNBC on its side. Obviously, the corporate media is owned by multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates. And you have a Democratic Party that takes a lot of money from these institutions, too.
I think it's the wrong question, what's it going to take? Because we didn't know that the Earth would start accelerating at this rate. So we could never have asked that question and answered it accurately before. What makes us think we can now? What makes us think we can now is the Industrial Revolution, is enlightenment, is our privilege, is our colonizing, is the habits we have of consumerism, of being able to estimate everything with data and so forth. Those days are over. We're out in Magic Land here, white man. Amen. It's another day. And so every day we've got to review, every hour we've got to review, and we've got to escalate ourselves.
And my viewers want to know, where do they get the orange jumpsuit?
Well, when I go into a thrift store, my eye goes down the suits, you know. And people throw this beautiful stuff away sometimes. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
So that's the good Reverend. Let's talk to some other folks here. Hold on. So, yeah, I'll talk to him in a minute. He was really loud and inspiring. You see all sorts of young people here. You want to talk? We have somebody from Sunrise Movement, which obviously has sparked a lot of this climate activism. I don't think the climate town hall on CNN, MSNBC would have happened without the Sunrise Movement. What's your name?
My name's Esther.
Esther, so 8 o'clock in the morning. What are you seeing? Are you seeing momentum? Because some people look at events like this as like, well, the people in the building don't give a damn. They just look at these folks as just riffraff to, you know, let them chant and then they'll go away. How do you take events like this and actually create change?
Well, everyone here could be at work, could be at school, but they know that this is much more important. Anything else that they could be doing, these people are making a sacrifice by being here. They could be at work, I could be at school, but we know that this is something that will help us for our future. We need to do this. It's not like we can't have business as usual anymore, and the timeline is really running out. So we have to show up now, and this momentum is more than you would have ever seen years ago. People don't normally just come on Tuesday, it's 9 a.m. People have other places to be, but they're choosing to be here.
Right. And let me ask you, because the climate strike that just happened, it had like over 3 million people globally, hundreds of thousands in America.
7 million.
7 million, thank you. You know, what's interesting to me is that's a lot of young people. And they always say in America, well, young people don't vote, this and that. It seems like more and more young people are becoming, even if they're not like capital into politics that much, they're getting more active on climate. Is it encouraging you that a lot of the people your age are getting involved? Because really, it starts with the politicians that are taking money from it starts with voting out those politicians that are taking the money from the BlackRocks and other companies like it.
Well, it's not necessarily that the young people are more politically inclined. It's more out of necessity. We have the effects of climate change are really going to affect my generation, because once we get to 2030, 2040, these years for us aren't so far in the future. So that's when I'm going to be in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and we'll have reached a point of no return. And once we get to 3 degrees, 4 degrees Celsius, you know, it's going to be like a snowball effect when the permafrost melts and the ice caps melt, like I think he was talking about before. You know, this is going to be something that my generation has to inherit. We're going to inherit these problems, and the reason why we're more active than we would have been in that previous generations have been is because the adults, the leadership right now aren't doing anything, or they're not doing enough. And for us, it's personal. This is our Earth, and we're taking matters into our own hands.
And lastly, obviously we know the Republican Party can care less. Are you hearing enough from the Democrats? We have like 25,000 candidates. Obviously, Joe Biden kind of let's do a little trim around the edges. Warren has said some things. Bernie has the most expensive plan. What are you hearing from the Democrats? Is it enough?
Well, the other day, I think last week, a friend of mine was talking to Joe Biden from Sunrise, Lily, and he said...
Was that the one who called him child?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Look at my record, child. So there are certain candidates that aren't exactly taking us seriously, but, you know, we saw Sanders' plan, even Warren's plan, which she took mostly from Jay Inslee, who was, you know, a very... dedicated to this crisis, but it's gonna take action at every level, and we do need a plan that's comprehensive. Obviously, we know which plans. You know, Sunrise hasn't officially made, hasn't shown support for a specific candidate, but you can see which candidates are taking this crisis seriously and which aren't. What we do need is a debate specifically on climate. The last debate, they didn't talk about climate at all, even though it's the #1 crisis. Even at a previous debate, CNN surveyed their viewers and they said, what issue should we talk about? And the #1 response was the climate crisis, of course. And they still only talked about it for like 10 minutes each night.
Gee, the DNC, who had a 5-minute ban on fossil fuel donations before they got rid of that ban, yeah, they don't want to debate on climate change. Shocking.
They had a town hall so that they can have like a free pass and say, well, we had a town hall, so we already asked all the questions, but of course a town hall, not that many people watch them. It's got like 1/10 of the viewership because, you know, they're 7 hours long and they're not on the stage at the same time. So you can't see, of course they're all going to say, yeah, climate change, I'm taking it super seriously, but you need to have them all on stage at once so you can say which plan is actually the most bold and they can challenge one another. So you need to have one candidate saying to another candidate, actually, your plan doesn't have this, your plan doesn't have this.
And lastly, Bernie, I'm not sure I've heard from anyone else, but Bernie has been talking about actually prosecuting these fossil fuel executives, which, let me tell you, Wall Street, these people, they don't like to hear that because they've gotten a free pass for many, many years. What do you think about, you know, the Exxon Mobils of the world, the BlackRocks of the world, potentially facing criminal prosecution?
Well, ExxonMobil and some other companies, they knew about the climate crisis back in the 70s, and they pushed propaganda to say that, no, it doesn't exist, it's not a problem. But behind closed doors, they were saying, yeah, this is a big problem. We have to act now. That's what they were saying in the 70s. Behind closed doors, we have to act now. But then in the 90s, they said publicly, actually, you know, we have like 20 more years. They're lying, and there's the only way to actually show that this behavior is unacceptable is to put these people behind bars. Fining them, like, that's not going to do anything. They've made billions off of this crisis, and then to say you have to give us a small fraction of that back, it's still worth it for them in their eyes. Profits, if you're letting them, they have plenty. So just to say, oh, we need to get a sliver of what you took by, you know, investing in this crisis and funding this crisis and creating this crisis, just to say, oh, actually, you have to help a little bit to fix it, that's not going to do anything. The only way to actually show that we do not tolerate this behavior is by prosecuting those people that caused this.
You mind if I ask, how old are you?
I'm 16.
Why I wanted to ask how old she was? What's crazy to me, Esther at 16 has more intelligence in her brain than a combination of the idiots CNN puts on its network at a time. This is why it's so important to have independent media out, because you don't hear young people, very intelligent people speaking on this. They've done the research, whatever candidate you're for, they've done the research, and you usually have on these networks the few minutes, if they ever talk about climate change, lobbyists on, consultants on, people with conflicts of interest. So thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it. And Sunrise Movement, right? Cool. Thank you, Esther. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Get some other folks here.
Because nowadays, if you talk about undeserved but just transition,
I wanted. I guess she left. I was looking for that. That speaker. No, I was looking for somebody else. Hold on. What's that?
The one with the orange jacket? Jenny?
Where?
She's right there. The one with the orange jacket? She's right there down the block by my car.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Come on in.
Let's get this one with BlackRock.
How you doing there? Good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you.
So you were one of the fine people holding up that very powerful sign. Look like
I was next to them. They were doing the hard work of holding the sign.
right. So we've talked before.
Yeah.
You think these executives hear anything you guys are saying, or is it more important just to keep showing up to raise awareness? Because obviously Sunrise, nobody knew who Sunrise or any of these activists were like a year or two ago.
I didn't know.
Right.
So for me, showing up and putting all of me, including my body, on the table for the earth is my life's mission. It's what I have to do. So I think all of it helps at every angle, all of the time, and persistence with it.
And it's kind of like ironic because New York City, everybody's going a mile a minute in their own little world. But you have, like, before breakfast, like 150, 200 people showing up. How do you kind of get more people? Obviously, this is a very wealthy area. How do you get more people, particularly older people, who it's affecting their grandkids, to take notice? It's like we know Republicans only care when it affects them. We know a lot of, like, kind of wealthy Democrats care if things affect them. Some of these wealthier people in California, for example, are now having to evacuate due to fire. How do you get more people to pay attention to this as like an urgent crisis?
I was really impressed that there was elderly and a very intergenerational crowd even here. So yeah, it might be a sample size, but honestly, it doesn't take millions of people to make a shift. And many movements are started by a few hundred. And I think the awareness of climate change is obvious, but making at the end of the day, we're shifting mindsets. And every person in here is an individual that makes up this system and that operates on these ideologies of corruption and oppression, of dominance, of patriarchy. So every mind helps add to that.
Right. And lastly, we're starting to hear talk. Bernie's talking about it, of prosecuting some of these folks. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously that's Wall Street doesn't like the term prosecution. These oil companies, Wall Street, they've gotten away with bloody murder for 20, 30 years because of our corrupt system. What are your thoughts on should they be prosecuted?
I don't like to argue with insanity. I don't want to try to be rational with irrationale. What's happening is insanity. It's crazy making, and I'm not going to reason with it. I will recognize the humanity in that person and know that there's illusion in decisions that they're making. But I'm a humanist, and I know the potential is there for us to make these shifts, and I believe in that. And I believe in Bernie, and I'm voting for Bernie, and I believe in the movement that he has been a part of his whole incredible life. And the many people that are behind him. So I feel incredibly hopeful. And I also am realistic with what's happening. So that's why everything matters. Everything we do matters. What we eat matters. How we engage matters. And also, I think ultimately that we don't lose hope. Apathy is the biggest threat here.
Absolutely. Remind me your name again?
I'm Allie, or Allison.
Okay. Thanks, Allie. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, looks like folks are starting to set aside. I really like this sign. I don't know if you got it. BlackRock, now the world's biggest investor. And they're the biggest investor in coal. I think they're also the biggest investor in deforestation. So that's quite the 1-2 punch here. So as you can see, it's kind of cleared out. We're going to be doing more things like this, whether it's early morning, late night. New York City obviously has quite a bit going on here as far as protests. And what kind of stands out to me at these things, when you have a lot of people in crowds, I always kind of look sometimes at like single moments. What stands out to me every time I'm at one of these things is when I see a 5 or 6 year old in the crowd, like they're not being coached. On the young lady I saw, she must have been like 5 or 6. She wasn't being coached, like what to say. Obviously, whoever's raising her is instilling in her this urgent crisis, and it's really inspiring because you start getting people in their youth, their preteens, whatever. That's how we're going to do this. Strength in numbers. Can't just be people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. You got to get people in their teens, in their 20s, because oligarchy did not start overnight, and they're not going to beat this oligarchy overnight. But I think the more protests like this, the more shaming. Rich people, particularly these companies, they hate being shamed. That's why so much of BlackRock and Exxon and these companies' budget is public relations. They have a massive amount of money put forth. Public relations, crisis communications, marketing, basically spin. And it wasn't talked about today, but BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, a lot of the PR and branding they put out, which is propaganda, is how they are invested heavily in sustainable projects. Well, part of their sustainable projects, if you don't know, let me get out my handy notes here. Part of their sustainable projects is ConocoPhillips, which not only derives a huge share of their revenue from fossil fuels, but also actively lobbies against legislation that limits the amount of oil and gas. So even their sustainable portfolio has massive oil companies. By the way, ConocoPhillips connected to Warren Buffett, patron saint Warren Buffett. So, want to talk? No. So that's it. I'll be live a little bit later, normal time, 5 o'clock Eastern time. This stream was a little bit early, so the audience, a lot of people probably didn't even know we were live, so make sure you share this, like it, and if you could be so kind, I don't know what we're at now, but we are less than $5,000 away, from meeting our GoFundMe. Our goal is $85,000. I think we're at $80,283 right now. Maybe we got a couple while I've been live. So I'm very bad at math. That's less than $5,000. If you got $5, if you got $20, if you got $50, this not as hard. You know, Joseph and I both live in New York, but got to pay Joseph, got to pay people, and also we're going to be going out to the Great Plains in the next few weeks to cover the fight against Keystone XL pipeline. Construction begins for Keystone basically now. They're doing pre-construction now. Hey, you want to hop in? What's your name again?
Greg Schwadock.
Greg with Extinction Rebellion. You guys have been doing a lot of things around New York.
Yeah. We kicked off the chapter just right after we launched in the UK. We had Rockefeller Center. We had City Hall, banner drop. The banner drop rappelled down on Prometheus. Had climbed up the NYPD, the New York Times building, and we had Glenn, is he right behind me? He rappelled down on the Port Authority building right across and telling them to up their game. And we had did a boat drop at Times Square and had amazing die-in with fake blood right at the stock exchange.
And do you feel these events are kind of moving the needle? Because, you know, a lot of people are kind of cynical Susies and say, oh, you know, Larry Fink doesn't give a damn. Have your protests, and then, you know, they'll get rid of you like riffraff. Do you think these events, they might not move the needle today, but do you think they're helping in raising awareness? Because we're seeing more young people getting involved with these protests.
Of course, you know, this action today was organized by New York Communities for Change and Pete Secor over there, and Sunrise and Extinction Rebellion. There were members there that were supporting it, and it's a very tactical decision to go after Larry Fink. You know, he's on the Nature Conservancy board, and he, is a Democratic, donor and philanthropist, et cetera. So he likes to put this image out. So if he wants to maintain that image, well, he's got to divest from being BlackRock being the number one funder of fossil fuels and rainforest destruction, including the Amazon. He's got to stop that. At the very least, do the minimum of some of the very worst at the least. And so it's a tactical decision to go after him, because it's not like going after the Koch brothers. Larry Fink is a different story. He wants to maintain this image because he uses that. And he's a New Yorker, and he's here, so we're going to take it to him.
It's interesting you said that, because I was telling my audience, a lot of these companies, so much of their money is put on public relations and branding and pretending to be, sustainable and very focused on renewables. But even in their sustainable portfolio is a lot of oil and gas. So this kind of goes to calling your bluff on the image folks like BlackRock are putting out there.
Yeah, they made a year or two ago, they made this big ESG, environmental sustainable governments announcement. And I had to ask if that was the Yes Men announcement or not, of course, where the Yes Men went out and said, acted like they were BlackRock and said, we're completely divesting from fossil fuels. And they had to come out and say, no, we're not doing that. So, maybe that was even a response, right? Because there has been success moving, Larry Fink and BlackRock. But now, as you said, they're still there, right? So we have to do it. And there are companies that only exist because fossil fuel companies that only can exist because they're so capital intensive that they have the funding from asset managers like BlackRock. And they will only succeed if we go extinct. It's do you want to live or do you want fossil fuels funded? Do you want the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, right? It's one or the other. And in terms of moving the needle, Extinction Rebellion, we're all about building a mass movement. Our actions, they're targeted at the target of such as, well, it might be BlackRock. This wasn't specifically Extinction Rebellion action, but then they're also targeted at just moving everyone here, of empowering each other to know that the power does come from the people, that we are what give the pillars of power of government, of civil society, of unions. We give these their power, and so we have the power to take direct action and change the world.
Send me events when you got it. Status quo.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Remember when we met at the this is just we met at the before Justice
DNC?
Democrats, no, before Justice Democrats, the
brand new Congress?
The first brand new Congress events in New York.
I do remember. Yeah. Good seeing you again. Evan.
Greg Schwadock.
Oh, Greg. Okay.
Yeah, at Greg Schwadock on Twitter. And Extinction Rebellion, xrebellion.nyc.
Cool. Thanks. So I'll wrap it up. What I was saying is, I know you're donating to your preferred candidates. I know you're donating to all your causes. Listen, you wouldn't have known about this or seen it if Status Quo wasn't out here. I believe Democracy Now! Had a camera out here too. So obviously Democracy Now!, we love them. But as far as I could see, there was definitely no corporate outlets out here. And there was no other independent media other than us. And I think Democracy Now! Had a camera. I'll have to check that. So it is important to get this out there because in the live chat, I saw there were people watching from Washington State across the country. I saw there were people watching from around the world, internationally. It really makes a difference in terms of awareness. No, Larry Fink and BlackRock are not going to change anything today. But you get more bodies outside these companies. You get more people on the front lines against these corporate capitalist criminals. That's how you do it. That's why Status Quo is here. So you're going to be seeing us do a lot more events in the field here in our backyard in New York. Also, like I said, we're going to Keystone. I'm going away tomorrow for my brother's bachelor party, but if I make it back alive, we're going to Keystone, I think, like a week or two after that. Obviously going to be hitting the road to cover the campaign, but we need more funding. Go to our Jen's in the super chat right now. We're almost done. Less than $5,000 to go. So honestly, if you got $5, $50, $500, whatever you got, we got our GoFundMe going. Also, if you haven't signed up yet, statusquo.com/join. Become a member to Status Quo for as low as a cup of coffee a month. $5. We also have $10. You could also become an annual member at $179 annually. We're going to have more content just for members. Thank you for watching. Joseph behind the camera, great job. And I will be live later today, 5 o'clock Eastern. Peace.
Jordan, we're doing some streaming conferences. Okay. So we're about 50th and Arcos here, so I might just live stream. Okay. If you're interested. Yeah. Did you talk to him? No. He's the one who came out today.